But today's Leo world is all about you, hence manufacturing cost, launch cost, and replacement cost. That is baked into a pricing model.
Okay.
Maintenance cost, we don't even consider maintenance
Okay.
in orbit.
Okay. So there's this huge investments that are coming in to the space sector, especially since the past 3 years, right? Did you see this wave?
Yeah, it has to happen.
It has to happen.
Yeah, it is obvious, right? Look at, and today if you look at most of the investment going to the rocket companies, which is fair. It's always because rocket is like the shovel for the space, right?
Okay.
If you don't have rockets, you don't have space, access to space. So in any country, like Musk started in 2000s in that SpaceX, right? Falcon 1 banaya, Falcon 9 banaya, and then so India, if you look at Skyroot and Agricola are solving it. Of course, there are a lot many rocket companies that are coming in. I think by this year, next year, they will get orbital.
Okay.
They might have few hiccups in between, but they will get. India will have its own private sector orbital rocket. The moment the private sector comes in, the launch cadence improves. The number of rockets going to orbit fundamentally goes up. That means, as satellite builders, we don't think अच्छा we have to wait for, like, we have built this up 2 साल wait करो कोई तुम्हारा satellite लेके जाएगा ऊपर. The waiting period is too high. SpaceX is 2 years booked in advance, right? Today, for a smaller satellite, unless you're buying the entire rocket, which is $60 million, to buy a Falcon 9, you pay $60 million, the rocket is yours. You get 25 tons to orbit, right? But if I'm a 100 kg, 500 kg satellite builder, right? I have to wait for 2 years to launch with SpaceX because they are always booked, overbooked, booked in advance. Okay. So having a local private rocket sector is super important, and that's where the money is flowing in, and that is important. As that bottleneck, I'm talking from investment thesis point of view here. As that bottleneck gets unlocked, then you will suddenly find a lot of flux, money flowing into the satellite industry suddenly. Because guess what? Rocket industry doesn't have margins. Thanks to our market leader, he's built reusable rockets. Everybody's building rockets. He's building Starship now, differently. So because the price it is operating at, you can't be operating very far from that guy, right? SpaceX. So you operate at very thin margins. The real margins are in the satellite business. SpaceX makes most of the margins from Starlink. Rocket Lab makes most margins from the satellite subsystems. India, you will start seeing the same trend happening. Once this rocket infrastructure gets solved, you will start seeing a lot of money flowing in the satellite segment because that's where the margins are. That's where the bulk of the revenue will come in.
So which means we are getting use cases, right, in the industry, which is why the industry is also enthused about, okay, maybe space sector makes sense. Let me invest in that, right? Perhaps this is the reason a lot of attention has been into the space sector, and there is a race also going on, right? I mean,
there's a race going on.
There's a race going on
because of the war. I mean, let's not talk. But then because of the geopolitical stuff that is happening, right? I think as a world, we are going away from globalization and going backward. Let's not call it backwards, but we are going away from globalization to localization.
Localization.
And it's just every country in the globe. Everybody just wants to do it themselves. Nobody wants to do globalization. कि मैं ना साथ में काम करता है 4-5 country के साथ. वो ठीक है, the trade, what do you call that? The trade relationships are there from a taxation point of view. But then the whole globalization as a culture isn't there anymore.
It's getting diluted.
It is getting diluted. It's more of localization now. Indigenous localization is more valuable than globalization, right?
So that's the reason for the raise and investment.
So that's the reason for manufacturing the whole, because the space is also hardware, right? So every hardware is getting localized in the country. Okay. Now suddenly the warfare you see. So that is one. The second trend is the warfare. Warfare it's called the OODA loop, right? Observe, orient, decide, and attack, right? In the OODA loop, who has the information faster? Anybody who has a faster information has an upper hand. So space is sector that gives you that upper hand, right? So every country has realized that every step, whether it's Operation Sindoor or the current war that is happening, that after Operation Sindoor, one of our border sharing nations signed $400 million budget for putting satellites in orbit. After Operation Sindoor, they realized we need to have more satellites, then you have an upper hand, right? So yeah, in the new age, having access to space gives you a lot of strategic value as a country. So every country is investing in space, and that's what private industry also seeing. Space was predominantly, of course, government was the biggest customer, but now every country is investing their money in both localizing the space asset and pushing for more funding to the space asset, buying more space infrastructure.
Will companies like Starlink and Amazon, they're planning to take over the communications network
They're
right?
building the communication
They're
network.
building the communications network, or probably taking over also, as I would maybe think so, because Starlink has actually launched about close to around 10,000 satellites
They launched a lot more,
in
but then
the.
they have currently 10,000 active satellites orbiting around us.
They've already launched and it's active.
Yes, yes. They have
Okay.
launched a lot more because a lot more
Okay.
have also died.
So, which means the cellular network which we operate today,
Mhm.
right, has taken up to space. Is that so? Like currently we operate with towers, right?
Yes, that
And
is
that
going.
has gone to space, means the towers are going to be irrelevant in the
No, no, no,
future?
no, 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 no.
No. Okay.
Like a Starlink will not be able to provide a great experience in a city like Bombay,
Okay.
right? If you're in thick of things, like imagine a satellite, right?
Hmm.
It and internet is a very P2P. Like every customer is
Hmm.
accessing different data. It is not broadcast,
Hmm.
right? That means, and you know our population density in Bombay,
Right.
or
Right.
in UP, वो नहीं चलता उधर. The moment you have sparsely populated areas, right?
Okay.
That's when it adds value. Otherwise, you need a much more denser network. So it doesn't make sense to really go after densely populated areas. That's a tower is a better solution.
Okay.
But for remote accessible areas, which was not a business sense before, suddenly those things come up. Or in fact, I was taking Emirates flight to Spain, right? I had 120 Mbps download speed. I could do video call. I could watch Netflix. I just stream OTT and watch OTT on the flight, and not stuck to that IFE.
Okay.
Right, and that was mind-blowing experience, right? So that is what Starlink adds value.
Okay.
During again warfare times when the networks are down, that's when it becomes a backhaul network.
Okay.
So remote areas, which was India had a NOFN policy where they're trying to lay out the national fiber optics across the nation. Those are not cost effective. You put like few satellites and you're done with it, right? With 10,000 satellites, he's able to solve so many countries.
Okay.
Right? Depending on strategically, if you plan, let's say, certain orbits, you can actually solve the 5G concentration of all the remote areas in India. You don't need, so yeah, communication is.
So you're saying it won't be taken over?
No,
but they will have their advantages.
It supplements the.
It supplements.
Yeah, even when you're talking about data center business, right? The terrestrial data center will never go away. Like in computing, we call synchronous compute, right? When you want to know your bank account details or when you want to see your Instagram feed, you want it now.
Okay.
No, Gen Z is going to wait for 2 seconds more to see their जो भी reels देखने के लिए, right? For 2 seconds बाद load हो तो no Gen Z is going to wait, right? That is synchronous. That will always stay terrestrial, closest to you.
Okay.
Right. Okay. What will go away is the training and the asynchronous compute.
Okay.
Right. So space ecosystem will always work in tandem with the terrestrial ecosystem, because humans are the asset. I mean, the user is entered on Earth. So if you build a value prop closer to Earth, it will always be more better in user experience.
Right.
Versus an asset which is 500 kilometers away from you.
Right.
Just from the physics point of view. So yeah, so space will always supplement what is happening terrestrially.
Supplement. Okay. A lot of pharma companies in space. What are they doing there?
So two things, right? If you look at, I'll take a step back. Like there are 200 million proteins that are known to the human being, and everything is built around the whole pharma is built on the knowledge of the proteins, right? Alpha folding solve the what is the shape of the protein? Okay, we know the chemical structure, but what is the 3D shape of the protein? Because if you know the shape of the protein, you can then build a drug around it to attack that protein that the bacteria produces or the thing produces. So there's certain proteins, because of the gravity, it is just impossible to crystallize them, right? To make them crystals so that they can be productized, which is medicines and all can be built in it, right? What pharma companies have been traditionally doing, there's a machine called clinostat, which is like a rotating machine which uses centrifugal force and gives you like a 0.4 G, like 1/4 of the gravitational force that you experience. Makes gravity lesser, so the chances of it crystallizing is higher. But space, by its default, is a gravity-free environment, right? So by going to orbit, and that too, the launch costs have gone down so much, right? Today is $7,000 per kg. You can send 1 kg of material to orbit for $7,000. With that, and you can orbit as long as you want, right? कोई आपसे पैसा नहीं ले रहा orbit के लिए.
Okay.
Right? And it's free. Gravity is free. You're not spending energy to create that environment. Suddenly, to run the clinostat, you need electricity to run the clinostat and a clean room and what have you, right? And space is by default clean. उधर कोई bacteria ऐसा chill नहीं कर रहा. Nobody chilling around. So it is by default a clean environment. So yeah, so pharma companies के लिए the API crystallization is the key driver. Now around API crystallization is the key driver. Now around that,
API in the sense protein crystallization.
Yeah, active pharmaceutical ingredient.
Okay.
It's called an API. Like the things needed to build that medicine.
Okay.
Right? So active farm ingredient. It's an ingredient to build the medicine, right?
It.
Now, if the ingredients are available in crystal form, much easier to handle it. If it is unstable ingredient, then much difficult. Hence, the medicine becomes very costly because unstable ingredient, right? So you can crystallize in orbit. So that is one thing which is called manufacturing in orbit, manufacturing those medicines in orbit. Then there's clinical research in orbit, right? I might just take few samples, crystallize it, and just get one crystal to see ki whatever my AI told me this is the structure. This is actually the structure or not, right? So that's second. Then third is 3D printing of body, certain organs, right? A child is born in a gravity-free environment in the mother's womb. There's water inside. So it is less gravity, right? So that's how the body is built by nature. But nature as a table पर रख के नहीं बनाता body, right? It's built in the water, which has buoyancy. Now, if you want to build a heart, if you want to build certain, let's say 3D print an eye, you have to counter the gravity because as you build it will collapse, right? So you have to create that environment, and hence space gives an advantage. So a lot of experiments done in ISS already of 3D printing organs in orbit, or manufacturing. Like manufacturing is the wrong word for it, but you get the point. Building those organs in orbit, which will be required with the lifestyle we have. 3D printing of organs fast will be beneficial and at a lower cost. So if you could, so there is this biological part and there is pharmaceutical part, which is really space and environment is going to add value because because the environment, the gravity-free environment and access to the environment is getting cheaper.
So they could also be manufacturing units or production units in space as well.
Yes.
Right, which are floating
around.
In space.
Yeah. So and that's what is proven in ISS, right? So ISS makes tons of money, but ISS is a prototyping. See it as a prototyping center. If there's Masaryk, right? They had insulin medicine, which you can just do, not insulin medicine. I think for a cancer thing, they had this insulin kind of, like you do this and do this.
Which Russia was working on?
No.
No. Okay.
I forgot. But then, yeah, so they did that experiment on ISS, and that's how they sort of build that drug. They crystallize the API in ISS, and that's how they sort of build the medicine on Earth, right? But ISS will never let a pharmacy company block one piece of the space station. Okay. Right? That's why if you look at after ISS goes down, there are these 4 or 5 companies already trying to build private space stations. Okay. Because why will a pharmacy company go ahead and build such a manufacturing facility? Somebody has to, it's like realistic होता है ना, कोई shed बनाता है. Manufacturing company जाकर अपना equipment डालता है shed के अंदर. So somebody has to build a shed there.
So ISS, which means the International Space Shuttle Station, right? So they can, it's like a floating shed.
Shed.
Okay. So you can have companies there operating.
Not an ISS because it's a government project. Right? They want to enable more and more innovations. Right? They will never sell off one section to one company because then it is blocked.
So like SEZ zones, you can have zones in space as well.
Yeah. That's what, if you look at, there's Axiom, there is VAST, there is Max Space. There's so many companies already there to build private space stations. Okay. The reason the private space stations coming is because somebody will build the space, that infrastructure where you can then carry machines and put your machines and you have a manufacturing facility ready. True that. Right? So that's how somebody's building hotels in orbit. Right?
Hotels?
Because if tourism happens, people want to get married in space, people want to do MMA art, MMA fighting in space. People are crazy.